After taking care of business in New England, the Bills look for redemption this week versus the Jets. With yet another defensive superstar lost for the season, can the Bills rally the troops down the stretch? That and more coming right your way. This is the Friday Night Forecast.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming to rep the East. Buffalo bad with a vengeance. We resurrected the team, man, we dangerous. Watch for these horns, they lacerate and cut. We don't play no game while we play this game. No, I playing us. You know what it's about, you made me wanna shout. They said to take an L, we took another route. Deuces to the drought. Play through all the doubters, finger pointing and laughing. The ones that was talking that trash are the same ones circling wagons. We ain't having it. Dominate divisions ever since we put the L in it. Knocks the competition out the stadium like hammer fist. Stephon Diggs a grave and he pays respects to the cornerbacks that can't cover quickness. Then he catches it. In 1995 to 2020, break the streaks. Kept the faith in every season for the team, cause I believe. Taught me no matter how many times you're down, do not accept defeat. Feel like number 17. You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. What? You got me feeling like I'm Josh. Okay. You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. Josh. Yeah.
Got me feeling like I'm
Who? Josh. Yeah.
Josh Allen.
Yeah. Succeed the most in the freezing cold. Break a couple tables in a parking lot with sleet and snow. Put the work in with Sean McDermott, a worthy coach. Y'all can get the hands like a Wilson ball when it's Beasley thrown. Got so many yards to the point we owning property. I remember haters talking foolish with that gossiping, but they don't want it with Buffalo. Cause when the winter storm hits, they'll be stuck with nowhere to go. Let's play Micah hide and seek. We'll find a week up on the field. Say hiking will unleash the likes of Trey White and Edmonds. All kinds of D. Back in the driver's seat, the Singletary. He's sprinting scary to carry the ball through the plane. Embarrass these adversaries, prepare to be victimized. We gave New England pats up on their back. Told New York to jet, they left the scene and packed their bags. Went fishing for some dolphins, left them beats up on the sand. AFC East champs. You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. What? You got me feeling like I'm Josh. Okay. You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. Josh.
Got me feeling like I'm
Who? Josh. Yeah.
Josh Allen.
Welcome back, Bills Mafia, to another episode of the Friday Night Forecast here on the Cold Front Report. I'm your host, Travis Blakesley. Thank you for tuning in. Before we get started, please go ahead, show us some love with a like, a share, subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all things Bills. And today, like always, got my buddy Cody over here. How we doing, Cody? Welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back off our bye week. Ready to talk some Buffalo Bills football.
Yeah, dealing with a little sickness that time of the year, but the extra 10 days plus, I don't know, we haven't recorded since, what was it, the Detroit game. It's been a while.
Yeah, you got your little mini bye.
Right. We all did.
Yeah.
So a lot has happened since we've been here last. We'll touch briefly on the previous game. Sound victory. I think it was pretty complete game, although, you'd like to see a little bit more points, but whenever Bill Belichick is going to allow you to kneel out the clock when you still have timeouts, I think that's a win. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. It was a game that felt like it was really never in question, especially when we got in the second half. When the Patriots got the ball and did absolutely nothing, it kind of felt like I was at ease the entire game, which is a nice feeling because we haven't had too many of those the last few weeks. So, beating Bill Belichick with or without Tom Brady is always a pleasure. So I was very happy coming out of that game, especially the way we did it, utilizing the run game, utilizing Cook, Hines getting on the field a little bit more, and the defense playing a good game. So it was a nice win for us.
Yes, and tons of conflicting news regarding Von Miller to start off. First, they was hoping to be back by this game. Then it was 4 weeks because of the injured reserve. Now we find out tore his ACL. It's a shame for many reasons. I mean, you got a guy up there in age. Although he is signed long-term, it's a 6-year contract, but really it's 3, and then show me. So you lose essentially a third of that. A lot of money that could obviously be utilized. It's a shame, but I don't know. For some reason, I don't think it really hit me as hard as Tre'Davious White exactly 1 year prior. Because I like the stable we got. We got 2 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round draft picks on that line. How you feeling about the Von Miller situation?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's bad news, and I don't know what it is with Thanksgiving. Maybe we got to stop playing. I really enjoy playing on that day and especially winning. But back-to-back years losing top defensive players is
Maybe we
pretty
can play on
shitty.
grass.
Yeah, that's it. They gotta do away with this turf shit. But that being said, it's a huge loss. Von Miller was brought over here, as we all know, to be that closer type that everybody says, to come up with the big play. Not so much in the regular season, more so in the playoffs when we're playing Patrick Mahomes, and you have a 13 seconds. You're trying to eliminate that time where a quarterback is able to sit back there and pick out a pass. So he was brought here for that reason, and now we don't have him. He's a top-notch player. He did his part while he was here. But I do agree with you. It doesn't hit you that hard for whatever reason. The news was bad, and at first I kind of thought it was more of a blessing in disguise, kind of like okay, you give this guy, like you said, he's getting up there in age, give him a month off. You come back for the end of the season. Maybe you don't even need to play those games, depending on what the AFC looks like. And you get a healthy, rejuvenated Von Miller for the playoffs. So the news that came down going in there for the exploratory surgery was it sucked. It sucked. You're not going to lie. But, he'll be around the team. I think people maybe underestimate a little bit what he brings to the locker room and what he brings to that defensive line room, especially with Greg Rousseau. So I'm expecting those guys to really step up, and they did this past game. We're going to see the defenses now don't have to double Von Miller. Greg Rousseau might be that guy that maybe gets that, but now you have Ed Oliver playing at a high level. So guys are going to have to pick up the slack. It hurts us, but don't get me wrong. It's not it doesn't end our season. We're still a Super Bowl contender. We can still grow the distance, but guys are going to have to step up.
Yeah, I believe that. I don't think it's a difference maker as far as making you a contender or not. I know a lot of people are reacting emotionally towards it, especially when the news first broke. But at the end of the day, you got a high-powered offense who can get the job done. And Greg Rousseau, you hear early on the week, he may be able to make it back for last week's game. A lot of people were saying who were at practice, he looked a little ginger. He looked great on the field on Thursday. He definitely stepped it up. I think he knows he has to, and we'll see what mentally is he going to be able to do that. The one thing that me and you have spoke about multiple times that is a positive is I think you're going to see a lot more, although you're not going to get those pressure plays as consistently and maybe those big moment plays that we have been seeing from Von Miller. I think you're going to see a lot more consistency in contain, because there are a handful of times where he goes for broke, and sometimes it works, and then other times, you're leaving half the field open to extending the play or just running for that first down. So I think if there is a position group where you lose one of your top dogs, I think the defensive end, unfortunately, is one of those positions by de facto. It's unfortunate that we just got him. You spend all that kind of money on him, and then he's just riding the pine, so to speak, for the rest of the season. But we'll see. I still have a lot of faith in the pass rush, and it looked pretty good last week, although not the best offensive line against the Patriots.
Yeah, right. And you made a very good point there. Sometimes Von Miller rushing up around that end and just leaving that back door for the quarterback to sneak out, or the running back on an off tackle. He didn't really care so much, seemingly sometimes, about setting the edge. So
Right.
now you have a player like Shaq Lawson. Now I'm not going to put Shaq Lawson in the same breath as Von Miller, as one's a Hall of Famer, one of them's has his role. But Shaq Lawson is very good at setting the edge. So maybe where you trade off so much on the pass rush, you do get a player that can maybe add a little more containing the run. And, that's looking at the bright side. AJ Epinesa, you have guys there that can do the job. And now they're forced to. They have to.
Yeah, and Roy says here, without Vaughn, we virtually have no sacks. I don't have a lot of faith in the other guys. Well, honestly, the numbers are to the contrary. Greg Rousseau in 9 games, he's got 5 sacks. AJ Epinesa in light duty, he's got 4.5, surprisingly. Boogie's got 2. Daquan's got a 1.5, along with Jordan Phillips, Shaq, Ed Oliver. Again, Oliver has been right there. He may not be, it seems like we're saying this every year, he may not have the numbers, but he is making plays and he's making a big difference out there. So, yeah, I mean, it's a superstar outside an edge guy. You're not going to replace him, but there are guys and there's numbers behind him. And not for nothing, I do feel like Vaughn's, at least his production was sliding a bit. I think they were forced to kind of play him a little bit more than they wanted to. And, in this defense and at that stage of his career, I think it may be a little counterproductive. But moving on from Vaughn, why don't we just start with the injury report as we get into the Jets week? Not as bad as that as you've had in the past. So why don't you just quickly run it down for us?
Yeah, if I was going by what they put up there, I would, we'd still have a long list here. But just to break it down, shorten it up. Reggie Gilliam and Jordan Phillips are out this weekend. Phillips, actually both of them are pretty big losses considering. Although with
Jordan
Gilliam,
Phillips is 2 for 2 on flops so far this year.
Yeah.
You see him go down like a sniper shot him,
Yeah.
and he's out the next week.
when it comes to Jordan Phillips, when he's on top of his game and the playoffs, I think he really would be. I'm all for sitting him down for a few weeks, making sure he's good to go. Reggie Gilliam, I don't know how much, maybe 21 personnel you're planning on running.
Special
with-
teams, probably
Yeah,
the biggest.
yeah, right. Listen, I mean,
But
he's a
still,
loss,
yeah.
but you can get by without him. And then you have Matt Milano and Deion Dawkins, which are both listed as questionable. Matt Milano, limited practice today. Deion Dawkins was a full go. That's encouraging because we saw what happened with Quisenberry. He gutted it out. Props to him, but it was not fun to watch. He gave me a freaking heart attack in the first quarter. It looked like he couldn't stand on his own 2 feet. But as it is, he had an ankle injury. And then you look at
Hey,
the
listen, the
Jets.
ankle didn't affect the double punch on the Ghost Rush.
Yeah, that was
Sad,
brutal. That
right?
was. I mean, that's hard to watch. I hope he laughed about it because
I think it's safe to say, although, a swing tackle, I think it's safe to say he is a right tackle.
he is absolutely a right tackle, and it's a good point because the whole time I'm thinking, where the hell is a swing tackle on this team? I don't know. What was that guy that we had? He's a backup. He played both tackles for the swing
The real
tackle we
tall
had-
guy
Yeah,
with the bad knees, I
it's a
forget.
nice story.
Right.
I mean, I
forgot
wish
who
we
it
had
was.
him on the roster right now.
Yeah.
He's somewhere. Going over to the Jets, Michael Clemens with an illness. It looks like the Jets got hit with the flu a little bit this week. He's been out all week. He's listed as questionable as well. He's like their 5th defensive end. So there's really nothing there. That's it for the Jets. But, the one guy that's left off is the tackle, Max Mitchell. He goes to IR. That's the right tackle. So that, between Mekhi Becton, Cedric Agbui, Elijah Vera Tucker, and now Max Mitchell, they're hurting there. So if anything, the Jets are weak at offensive line. So hopefully, Von Miller without. Hopefully we can get after Mike White this weekend.
Yeah, let's start there. The only problem is Mike White gets rid of the ball 3rd fastest in the league. Now, he doesn't have the huge sample size, but that's his MO. I mean, this guy would rather throw an interception than take a sack. I mean, the statistics say that is true. So I wouldn't expect. I think what'll end up happening, you'll craft your own narrative. Not you, but the people out there saying, don't expect. You're not going to get a lot of sacks this week, and the Von Miller effect. When in reality, I think it's going to be Mike White. He's running the offense the way that the coaching staff wants him. I mean, this is a Shanahan style offense. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. Get it to your playmakers, and they have emerging stars. I mean, this is a team that has really turned it around, specifically in the last year, talent wise. Now, I felt the same at the beginning of the year. I just didn't think they'd have a competent quarterback play in order to get wins. But when they hold teams under 20 points, I mean, they win. So on defense, I really think what they have to do is mix up the Bills specifically. They need to mix up their coverages, maybe run a little bit of zone on one side, man on the other, get them confused, move pieces around. Because, like I said, he's not going to be taking sacks, but he does turn the ball over. I think last year against the Bills, he had 4 interceptions. Correct?
Correct.
That was the beginning of the end, right? He was the Jets quarterback, and then they played the Bills, and that was that.
Yeah, he was the at the top of the mountain going into that Bills game, and then the Bills really, brought him back down to the bottom. But you hit it right off the bat. The Bills need to disguise coverages. He needs to, whatever he's seeing pre-snap cannot be the same thing as when he's dropping back. But he's one of these guys. He's gonna hit his 3-step drop, and as you said, get rid of the ball. And with a couple of these guys that you have on there, Garrett Wilson especially, Elijah Moore. They have talent. Where the Jets really strive, especially with Mike White, is play action. So what the Bills didn't do well the first time was stop the run. Michael Carter ran for 6 yards carry. We watched them march down the field at the end of the game, and we got abused.
We didn't tackle. I think they were averaging 6 yards after contact. Yeah.
Which is just absolutely asinine. Now, we didn't have Matt Milano in that game. We didn't have Jordan Poyer. Trey White was not on the field. Greg Rousseau went out early. So there is some, changes here where I'm expecting the Bills to be a little bit different. I'm still hoping that Matt Milano plays, because we've seen this year he's playing at an all-pro level, and putting the rookie on the field, Bernard, was just a nightmare. You won't see that this weekend. Whether or not Milano plays, we will not be seeing Bernard. It will most likely be A.J. Klein, I would assume. And the missed tackles just can't happen. So the Jets will look to run the ball. They'll feed off play action. Mike White in play action is 18 for 26, 329 yards and a touchdown. So that's their bread and butter. But if you can shut down the run and force Mike White to drop back and throw 57 times like he did last week, then I think the Bills can get 1 or 2. Hence last year with the 4 interceptions. He will throw the ball down the field. So stopping the run, that's number one. Stop the run, make him beat you.
Yeah, and to kind of double down on your point on the talent, I mean, you got guys, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Tyler Conklin's really shown up big for them this year with 40 receptions already. Elijah Moore has that threat to take it the distance. Denzel Mims, although he's not making a ton of plays in the pass game, he's turned into a great run blocker as a wide receiver. And even their backup tight end, Uzma, he's a guy who can play. And Braxton Berrios, not really doing much this year, but he has that presence in the slot. So you got a lot of talent out there. They're not short of talent on both sides of the ball. And you mentioned earlier that offensive line is their weak point. Now, when the Bills are rushing the passer, you may not get there, but I think the game plan is going to be getting your hands up, bat these balls down. I mean, we see it all the time when in regards to Allen. I think it's time to flip that script and then just stop the run. I think it all comes down to that. If you can stop the run, make them run one-dimensional. I know that's such an easy, low-hanging fruit answer, but the Jets, I think they're the type of offense that if they don't have a run game, you get those 3 to 10 games. You get those. They were horrid in the red zone against the Vikings. I think what were they the first 4 trips down there, they're kicking field goals. So yeah, I think if you hold this team under 20 and then the Bills are back to themselves on offense, I think that's a realistic way to win. Before we flip the script, anything else on the offensive side of the ball for the Jets that kind of jump out at you matchup wise, or are you good to move on?
No, I mean just to mention that Tre'Davious White, I expect him to be back this week at near full go. I think that will make a difference in the backfield. As well as having Xavier Rhodes there. So we'll see that seems to be the 1-2 now going forward. Xavier Rhodes is a little bit longer in the tooth now, but he knows how to play zone corner. I'm expecting the Bills to match up with these receivers pretty good. And as you said, hopefully a big game from Ed Oliver, make Mike White uncomfortable, and we get 1 or 2 picks.
And as Roy mentioned, tackling better would help. I think that was by far their worst performance. And I mean, that last drive when they started at like the 4 or the 2 something, and they just marched down, and that was right. It was tough to watch. All right, flipping the script. Bills offense, a lot of question marks. I mean, Deion Dawkins questionable. He was quoted saying he was going to be around 3 weeks. That would be next week. So to get him back healthy this week would be a godsend, especially dealing with the Jets, because they got guys and in numbers. Surprise. They look a lot like the Bills on defense, especially when the Bills were building up. They got a rotation. They got 2 great cornerbacks. They got solid linebacker plays. So protecting Josh Allen was the downfall last time they met. And also, he just was that was the beginning of that ugly stretch of his. So number 1, protecting him, and if having a guy like Deion Dawkins, obviously, I mean, exacerbating the issue by watching last week's performance, I think that is really first and foremost the most important thing. That's gonna be the first thing I'm looking for when the inactives come out next week or on Sunday.
Yeah, that first matchup, the Jets really got after Allen. They really made him uncomfortable. They want the line of scrimmage really on both sides of the ball. So having Dion back, would really be huge. We can't see Quisenberry on one side and Spencer Brown on the season that he's having on the other side. It would scare me. I don't think Allen will be comfortable. I don't expect the same Allen. It almost makes you feel as if maybe there was something wrong the second half of that Green Bay game, and then maybe the injury at the end of the Jets game maybe was like a re-injury type thing, because it seems to be, that's where it started. And in that game, he was just off. He just didn't look comfortable. But the Jets got after him. And if you're getting consistent quarterback rush, even the best quarterbacks are going to be uncomfortable. So huge day for the Bills' offensive line. Hopefully they're relatively injury-free outside of Dawkins. If Quisenberry hopefully doesn't have to play. So start there. And then a couple things that I think that we can maybe, I don't want to say change so much, but, we've gotten the run game going. We mentioned last week, they got Cook more involved. They got Hines on the field. They ran their little pony package. Didn't really work so much. They would run motion across, hand the ball off to Hines, which I'm never very keen on getting guys running parallel to the line of scrimmage. I don't like it. It didn't work. But, there's a couple guys that if you go back and rewatch those plays, maybe one player, misses a block and that blows the whole thing up. But what I do like is putting all that speed on the field. Force the Jets to try to, have some different looks. Something that the Bills did not do at all during that last matchup, because they didn't. I don't know if Hines was even on the team at that point. If he was, he certainly didn't know the playbook and wasn't comfortable with the system. So, in this game, if I'm Josh Allen, I am not hesitating on getting the ball out early, hitting those running backs early. Let James Cook, let Nyheim Hines, Singletary, whoever it is, get the ball in his hands and get those yards after catch.
Yeah, I think you summed it up nicely there at the end. You got to have a game plan like you had against LA in week 1. I mean, how many passes did we see to Singletary? With the progress that we're seeing out of James Cook, and last week, despite his issues he's had finding that soft spot in the zones when he's coming out of the backfield in front of the line of scrimmage rather than parallel to it. I really liked what I saw there, and I think you're going to see a lot of that against the Jets. And whether or not the patterns, the concepts, the route concepts are going to go a little shorter, a little more intermediate rather than deep, or just having that release valve, I think it's going to be crucial because the easiest way to slow down a good pass rush is getting the ball out of your hands quickly, just like the Jets are looking to do as well. So I think if Allen plays within himself, I mean, we say it all the time. We like to see Josh Allen be Josh Allen, but, play within yourself, play within the offense. And as bad as that first game looked, the first half, the Bills' offense was moving the ball. They ran into a little bit more trouble later on, and then obviously with the turnovers, that's what killed them. So I really think the recipe is very similar week in and week out, where holding on to the ball, maybe forcing a turnover or two, and winning the battle. Start accruing the pluses in the turnover battle is going to be key to the Bills winning down this tough stretch that really didn't look. This was supposed to be the weaker part of the season, but finally I think the NFL got it right as far as scheduling, where you really, as far as a brand and a product, you couldn't really run it much better. I mean, you got one kind of okay, you got the Chicago Bears in there, but the rest, it's a loaded slate, and in a position where the Bills, let's face it, if they want the 1 seed, they're gonna have to win out. You can't expect Kansas City to lose in that cupcake schedule. Now, it could happen, but again, I really think the Bills need to win out, and it starts here with the Jets. And luckily, if we're looking in to the history of the Bills and a Sean McDermott-led team, this is where they kind of turn it on. So it's a similar situation we're in, but we're getting there a little differently. The run game, as much as we want to talk about how good it has been in the last couple weeks, we're the only team in the league to rush 100 yards in every game of the season. We're still up there in rushing offense as well. So run the ball, protect the ball. And then, Josh Allen's going to have his 3 or 4 plays where he makes you look silly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rushing 100 yards per game might be a little skewed with Josh Allen, but I get what you're saying. He has to be accounted for. He's
right.
That's what makes him so.
You have to defend 11 players,
exactly,
versus 10.
And what makes me feel a lot better going into this game is, during that Patriots game, I just felt like we had Josh Allen back. He felt like he was back to himself. He felt like he was in control, and I had that confidence in him. And I think probably all of Bills Mafia probably felt that way. It just felt like an easier game in that sense, where it didn't feel like he was straining or overcompensating for something, whether that's the elbow healing or just him getting back to himself. Either way, I don't care. You saw the first time we played the Jets, the Bills played easily their worst game of the season, probably on both sides of the ball, and they still barely lost away from home. I expect the Jets to come out. They're a good team and play very hard. They're very, very solid on defense. They attack the ball. They're a good, solid team. But Josh Allen, when he plays a team twice, is a different quarterback. I expect him to come out here with a good game plan. I expect Sean McDermott to change up a few things, make the necessary adjustments. And I expect the Bills to kind of get after it a little bit. I just don't think the Bills lose to the Jets twice in a year. I don't see it. Mike White, he's obviously a better quarterback than, I forget his name already.
Who we
The
talking
Jets-
about?
the Jets
Wilson,
quarterback.
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, he was terrible, which makes you kind of think, how the hell did we lose to him? But
Well,
you
he
know.
to be fair, I think he played his best game of his career. He was on script.
Yeah.
He didn't play like Zach Wilson that game. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
he didn't do the pirouettes going back 10 yards, which is what Mike White doesn't do. And we already touched that. He hits the back of his drop, he gets rid of the ball. So, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to the game, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's always good. As much as I've enjoyed the cakewalks the last couple of years against the Jets, it's nice to have the rivalry. Same can be said for Miami. Although I have a little bit more respect for Jets fans than Miami fans. But having them back to back, it certainly puts pressure on the team, and I think the Bills have been in these situations over the last couple of years. I'm thinking 2019 Steelers, 2020 Steelers. And then that when they kind of turned it around last year after losing to the Patriots in the win game, when you think all is lost and you were kind of down on yourself, you turn around, the Bills pull off a three game win streak, and it's tough. If you're going to win out, you're talking 8 in a row into the preseason or into the postseason, but certainly can be done, and it starts against the Jets. So why don't we pivot a little bit and go to our 3 questions, and after that we'll get into our predictions, and then we'll get on out of here.
May cross in safety.
What if you get a question wrong?
Then you are cast into the gorge of eternal peril.
Oh, wacko.
Who's going to answer the questions?
All right, question number 1. We didn't even speak about it yet, but where does OBJ land? Does it matter? Will he even play this year?
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine, especially with the last comments that came out that was kind of like, I don't see a reason to play in the regular season.
Yeah, he's walking
is-
it back for sure.
Yeah, so it kind of makes you think, is the guy healthy? Is he ready to play? Is he looking to just get some money this year just to kind of sit around and pad the coffers for next year? I don't really know. I think he's a solid player. I would welcome him on Buffalo. I'm not too worried about the diva bullshit. You saw what he did with the Rams last year. He probably would have been Super Bowl MVP if he played the whole game. I don't, what Jerry Jones is doing and kind of going through the media, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think he wants to play for the Cowboys. That's just my gut feeling. But I don't think the Cowboys really need him. I don't think the Bills need him. And I don't think the Giants are ready for that much success. So if he plays this year, I think he plays for Buffalo.
So you bring up a good point with the Giants. They're the only team that's in the running that needs him, I would say.
Yeah.
Although
Me too.
with a Daniel Jones type quarterback, how much are you going to get out of him? But it also brings up to the point he's only going to sign with it. I mean, 1, I believe in his heart of hearts this is how he feels. But 2, if he's only going to be back for the playoffs, literally that's a handful of teams. And then the third issue is, for some reason, I think he isn't understanding how this goes. When you're hurt and you're a free agent, you're not getting that big contract midway through the season or at the end of the season or post game. And I'm sorry, but a lot of these teams that are in the running, they can't afford that type of money. The only way he gets his cake and eats it too. Well, he's not going to get his cake. The only way he gets money is if he goes for a lesser team that can afford it. A splash signing, and that's out of the cards this year because of, his latest comments on Thursday Night Football about being ready for the postseason. So even if he was signed, let's say next week, you got 4 weeks to ramp up, 5 if you sign with a conference number 1 seed in the conference. Xavier Rhodes, guys, didn't play since the season before. What was it? First practice, pulls a hammy. You're done. I mean, what, you come back for the Super Bowl maybe, and you don't have practices under your belt. Don't get me wrong. I'm right there with you. I would love to have him. I think anyone who downplays not the importance, but what he could bring is silly. It doesn't taking reps away from a Gabriel Davis for a guy like him with his talent. It's not going to hurt the Bills. And let's face it, this team throws the ball to wide receivers more than almost any team in the league. So there's plenty of touches to go around. So in my heart of hearts, I don't even think he'll get signed this year, honestly.
Yeah, which is kind of what I was alluding to myself.
Right.
If
right.
he plays this year.
Because I don't think there's going to be teams willing to give him what he wants. And I think smartly he'll just say, okay, I'll wait. Because if you have a whole free agency period to get ready and then kind of, get the pony show going again about making your rounds, I think that'll probably be better for him. And then, the cap expands, teams will be more willing to give him what he wants. So I'm right there with you.
Just to add a little tidbit, if I'm him and I really do care about getting that ring or, attempting to get another ring, you sign for the veteran minimum.
Right.
You tell, let's just say Brandon Beane, for example, I don't feel like I'll be ready until the playoffs. You sign a veteran minimum contract. You get him in the practice setting for the next month. You ramp him up, maybe even the game before, granted, circumstance, and you come on a team, you show out in the playoffs, and you go get your big money.
Right. I mean, if you're not doing workouts and you're asking for multi-year deal worth multi-millions of dollars, it's just not going to happen. Like you said, you got to know the situation, know your awareness. You go in there and say, hey, get me on your team now so that I can get acclimated and heal. But that's the thing is if you wait until he's ready, it's almost too late.
Right. Which, the media does kind of skew things in their own way sometimes. This isn't so much, you get snippets of things, you get, sometimes not the full story. So I take everything they say with a grain of salt. I'm not having the conversation with him. We don't know what he's having the conversation as far as in Josh Allen's house, what he says, what he thinks, what they know. Mm-hmm. We don't know. So if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, great.
Right. We'll be all right.
Yeah.
Question 2. Why do you believe Elam was inactive last week? Another question that you really can't answer, but if your best estimate, what would you say?
Well, I mean, if nothing else, it's a talking point. This one kind of threw me off. I believe we spoke about it. A couple other guys that are Bills fans, that I spoke with about it. It was kind of everyone doing their best to kind of figure it out. They asked Leslie Frazier. He kind of gave a sideways answer. Well, he's coming off of injury, but then he played against Detroit. And
Sean McDermott comes out and says it has nothing to do with injury.
Yeah, it's nothing to do. Yeah, so rookie Walls, and then we want to get a better look at Xavier Rhodes and see what he's doing because Dane Jackson is sick at practice and Xavier Rhodes is taking those reps. Okay, I have no problem with you getting an extended look at Xavier Rhodes and having him start, but being inactive. I mean, it just
when you need more numbers because you're worried about a guy being hurt.
Yeah, you have Benford already down. Right. Trey White's on a rep count.
And Dane Jackson's sick half of practice.
Yeah. So it just seems like it has everybody's head spinning on what's and everything that I've heard about the guy is he lives, breathes football. So it doesn't seem like it's any kind of disciplinary thing. I think Micah Hyde actually said he's probably the most quiet guy on the team. Never has a smile on his face. He's just, nose down, football. So if it's not disciplinary, and he played relatively well against Detroit, I don't think anything that,
Well, I mean, it wasn't like what we saw out of Benford. Like I think that there was a clear decline his last 2 games. Where Elam, it was more of the same, really. In my opinion.
So, I'm talking myself in circles here. Why do I think he was inactive?
It was amazing.
Shit.
So two things make sense. Disciplinary, like you said, or sending a message, which could kind of fall in that camp as well. But honestly, it's Sean McDermott. He's good for 3 of these a year. I mean, he benched Tyrod for Nathan Peterman. He's not perfect. I mean, I'm ready for Sean McDermott to retire as a Bills coach, but he's not perfect. The good thing about him is I think he's a quick pivoter. He doesn't have many hills that he dies on outside of the process, and you got to practice to play. But other than that, he's very willing to change his. I mean, he goes from one of the most conservative coaches to the exact the antithesis of that in a short career. So I think it's got a lot to do with him. I don't buy the Xavier Rhodes thing because. Yeah, you of course you can get him. You can get a look on him, but what are you going to do? It doesn't mean you don't need to have 4 corners active on game day. So
yeah, and it's just amazing that you're talking about pivoting. We're going from Christian Benford and Elam, or Dane Jackson and Benford, to Trey White and Xavier Rhodes. It's I
all
don't really
within
know what
one
to-
game sometimes.
Yeah, so I expect Elam to be up this week. Like you said, maybe he's sending a message trying to light a fire. I don't know. You've heard plenty of players, including ex-players like LaShawn McCoy, say what a great motivator Sean McDermott is. Maybe, as you touched on, maybe this is some kind of way of doing so. I don't know, but I'd like to see him up. I think he warrants a roster spot. I don't think he's played bad at all.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to number 3. Who steps up opposite of Greg Rousseau? Before I hand it over to you, obviously we know it's going to be by committee, but do you feel like there'll be a guy who they're going to lean on a little bit more than the rest?
Well, it seems like they're leaning on Shaq Lawson, and maybe that's because of what we touched on already. He's good at setting the edge. He's a good run stopper. Greg Rousseau is that guy that's going to get over after the quarterback. So that gives you a little bit of a yin and yang situation. But I love AJ. I'd love to see him, but he's more of the same body type as Greg Rousseau. So I expect it to be Shaq Lawson going forward. He's a savvy vet. He's played well. He's kind of taking the reins. So yeah, Shaq Lawson.
I agree. I think Shaq is your most... Well, I think Greg, obviously, he's the most complete. He can shut down the run. He can get after him. He can condense the pocket. He can beat you with speed. He can beat you with power for sure. But I think Shaq, just like Jordan Phillips, they play their best ball in Buffalo. It's funny because he's totally not a Sean McDermott guy, but he's turned into it. It's like I really think Buffalo early in his career has helped him mature as a person and a player, and he is dominant on short yardage situations. Handful of times, 4th and short. He's been there every time, and the only thing I'm concerned about him, and it kind of plays well into the Bills' defense as a whole, is he gets gassed. I mean, he doesn't seem like the most, I don't know, the most well, he doesn't have a ton in the tank. He seems like, maybe when they're conditioning, they're doing a little of that. He's one that'll hide behind the backstops on a sprint or something. But you love his energy. I just loved seeing him and Taylor Lewan go back and forth when he was here early on. So I definitely agree with you. But then you got guys like AJ Epinesa, who you bring him in on a 3rd down. I think he's sneakily, like I said, 4.5 sacks. And Boogie Basham, although we haven't heard much of him lately, he's a solid guy who's going to rotate into. But I believe he's been the first guy out there. Shaq has been the first guy out there opposite of Greg Rousseau instead of Von Miller, or in Von Miller's stead. So yeah. I'm right there with you on that. All right, so before we wrap it up, let's get a score prediction.
Well, the Jets have a solid defense, but I think the Bills crossed that 20-point threshold that we spoke about. I'm going to go Buffalo 27, Jets 17.
27. Let's see. 27 to 19 Bills.
Did you have the same prediction?
I
as
no,
did? You
I
changed it?
wasn't. I knew I was going 27 with the Bills, but I wasn't sure what I was going to go with the Jets. I think you see the Bills hold the Jets to a lot of field goals. Will they work the ball down the field? You know, Garrett Wilson may get behind the defense once or twice, but you know, luckily that's strength versus strength. Now with Poyer being healthy, and I believe we're going to see Trey White for the full game this week, and I think it really couldn't come. It's a good not a measuring stick, but just it's a good ramp up for the real test next week, where you know, certainly unless there's a blizzard, which totally could happen, but against Waddle and Hill, I think this will definitely be. It's kind of, although we wanted to see him around the Packers game, I think it's really kind of settling into a best case scenario where Trey White's going to be fully acclimated by the time the playoffs come around. So, you know, in a long-winded answer, I think the Bills are going to be able to hold the Jets to field goals, and then maybe they score a touchdown towards the end, but really see the Bills' offense get back on track. With that, any closing words you want to say before we get out of here?
No, not really. I'll just steal something from the Raiders. Just win, baby.
Man, the Raiders.
They suck.
Yikes.
They did not just win.
No, and I think there was like 4 or 5 games where it's just like 3-score game, end up losing. And yeah, they've definitely taken the crown of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory like the Bills used to, right?
Yeah, anytime you get to see McDaniels and that stupid fucking what's the visor that he wears? I'm done with it. Right. I'm done with seeing that guy on the sideline.
The funny thing is
Mayfield.
The funny thing is the Raiders are still paying the entire Gruden staff right now. They can't afford to cut another head or fire another head coach. They'd be paying 2 guys multi-million-dollar deals and looking for a third. So the Raiders that's what they get for moving to Las Vegas.
Yeah, it might be time to move on from Carr too.
I mean, listen, he can play in the league, but if you're looking to win, I don't think that's it.
He's at his ceiling for sure.
Right. All right, folks. With that, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Friday Night Forecast here on the Cold Front Report. We'll see you next week, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. What? You got me feeling like I'm Josh. Okay. You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. Josh.
Got me feeling like I'm
Who? Josh. Yeah.
Josh Allen.